Hello and welcome to Daily Politics. I'm Shafiu Suleiman. Ademola Adeleke has been affirmed as the governor of OSUN State by the Nigerian Supreme Court in a verdict on Tuesday. Adeleke of the People's Democratic Party was declared the winner of the governorship election by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, with 403,371 votes, defeating the then incumbent governor Adeleke Oyetola of the All Progressives Congress, APC, who got 375,027 votes. However, Oyetola and the APC rejected the result and contested it at the tribunal. Also, as the race for the leadership of the 10th National Assembly thickens, Senator Lynn Dume, who represents Borno South District, stated that the nomination of Godswill Akpabio by the All Progressives Congress APC National Working Committee for Senate President of the 10th National Assembly does not necessarily mean that he is the anointed candidate of the party. He said this during a television interview while responding to the announcement of Akpabio's nomination as the leader of the 10th Assembly. Dume asserted that Akpabio was just the party's prepared choice, which did not make him the automatic leader of the Senate. According to him, the senators would still have to vote to decide the leader of the Red Chamber. Dume went on to clarify that he did not believe anointed was the appropriate word to use and that prepared candidate would be more accurate. And finally, Tajuddin Abbas, an aspirant of the All Progressives Congress APC for the speakership position in the House of Representatives, has stated that he will not lead a rubber-stamp parliament if elected. Abbas, who represents Zaria Federal Constituency of Kaduna State, is the favored candidate of the APC and President-elect Ashwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Speaking during an interview, Abbas emphasized his credentials and legislative contributions, stating that he sponsored 78 bills during the outgoing 9th Assembly. Now, joining me in the studio to discuss these issues and more, I have Omobolohan Babawale. He was a member of Policy Research and Strategy Directorate of the now defunct APC Presidential Campaign Council. He is also a public affairs commentator. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Right. Okay, so we will now take a short break, and when we return, the conversation begins. Stay with us. Now, thank you for staying with us. And Babalahan, you're welcome once again to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Right. Okay. We've seen the issues as projected, a number of issues in the polity.
Yeah.
Now, ranging from the Supreme Court verdict, to the leadership conundrum and the National Assembly leadership tussle, if you like, or search for leaders by your party, because the issue is largely within the APC.
That's true.
Okay, so let's start with the first one.
Okay.
Now, it's been a very long walk, to victory, some will say, for Adeleke. He won the election, but it was contested by the APC candidate. He went to the tribunal, which upturned the results and declared, and then obtained the victory.
Yeah.
And Adeleke also felt it wasn't correct. So he has to go to the appeal. He went to the Court of Appeal, which returned the mandate or the victory. And now Supreme Court has finally affirmed him as the duly elected governor of OSUN State. What do you make up with all of this?
Well, I think now the Supreme Court judgment has laid to rest all the Ulabalo, uproar, and opprobrium around the Osun State election. Incidentally, I'm from Osun State myself, and I was at the state during the electioneering and on the election day. As a matter of fact, I went around the state and I observed the elections across this, and at least in substantial part of the state. So I saw what actually happened. With all the numerous back and forth from the tribunal to the appeal and now to the Supreme Court, the case has been finally laid to rest.
Disposed, yeah.
So I think what I want to say is that the dramatics personnel this time around have learned their lessons from the appellant and the respondents. So Adeleke has been affirmed, and it tells the APC to go back to the drawing board and look at what brought them to where they are today. If they can see, like I always tell people, it is better to judge than to war.
That's right.
We don't gain anything in war. As a matter of fact,
in any contest, there must be a winner.
There must be a winner. I remember in the build-up to the election in OSUN State, I wrote personally, and I said, with what I saw in the state, we are likely going to lose the state if the two protagonists, the now former Governor Oyetola and his predecessor Aregbesola, if the two of them could not be brought together to reconcile the differences, that we were going to lose, and it happened. So
okay, looking at the lessons, because it's not just on the part of the appellant, if you like, and the respondents. I happened to be at the Supreme Court, while this judgment was delivered. The Supreme Court addressed a number of issues. One of it was actually the fact that the tribunal, which first had the case, was alleged to not to have, give the respondents fair hearing. It determined the case largely without them responding to the issues and what have you. So, and then the Supreme Court also was not happy with some of the pronouncements, if you like, or what the lower court did in terms of jettisoning, if you like, or not recognizing or not respecting an earlier ruling or earlier judgment of the Supreme Court, especially with regards to the qualification of the candidate. Now, Ademola Adeleke, at some point, I think, was at the Supreme Court to interpret this, or rather for the Supreme Court to determine this issue of whether he has the right qualifications also.
Because it was brought in against him by one of the PDP guys.
Yeah, and then what the Supreme Court is saying is that the tribunal, knowing fully well that there is this substantial, if you like, existing judgment, should have taken cognizance of it, but it didn't. So, declaring, almost the entire proceedings as a nullity. Wow,
that's quite interesting. I was not at the Supreme Court, but with what I've just said now, that means we can't question the Supreme Court. Yes. But what I saw here is that a punishment for the tribunal for jettisoning a substantive verdict on the case against Ademola Adeleke, which was brought by a PDP guy.
That's right.
That said it was not qualified.
That's right.
I remember that case was pursued to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court validly affirmed Adeleke as qualified for running for the election.
That's right.
So
it is a matter that has been determined already.
It's a determined case, and the tribunal should laugh, at least given respect to the Supreme Court in respect of that, and base their judgment on some other issues, which are salient anyway about the election, not necessarily is qualification or otherwise.
Yeah, and then the Supreme Court was, emphatic about fair hearing. That the fact that it's a fundamental principle in law to allow parties to ventilate, to allow parties to defend themselves, So, and then it accused the lower court of not sufficiently granting the respondents fair hearing, which is also a serious concern.
Well, on that, I will not blame entirely the tribunal. You would score that, unlike what it used to be in the past, the case of Aregbesola versus Oyetola then, the case ran for 3 years and 10 months or thereabouts. So they had sufficient time to prove their case. But in this case, based on the new Electoral Act, the tribunal has a very limited time to decide case. So, and our politicians, they love dramas. So it's not impossible that during the trial, the PDP or whichever party might have come up with some, drama during the hearing. So it's possible that the The tribunal just said, don't waste our time with this. We have very limited time to decide on this case. Maybe that was what happened. So there was no sufficient time for the tribunal.
The case? Is that what you're saying?
That was what I'm saying, because unlike what it used to be, where they had at least 6 months to decide the case. But now, within 60 days, you have to decide the case. But that does not mean that the other party should not be given sufficient time to defend themselves.
Yeah, and then looking at the bone of contention, you know, what the APC is saying is that the electoral body, that is INEC, did not, has not complied with the sections of Electoral Act, you know, especially with regards to the use of BVAS, that is accreditation of they're talking about the fact that there wasn't accreditation, proper accreditation of voters in 10 local governments. That is talking about 774 polling units thereabout.
Yeah, that's true.
And this to them is substantial enough perhaps to warrant the nullification of the result. But the Supreme Court decides otherwise. Just like you said, the Supreme Court held that in determining this, or rather in proving this, the petitioners, if you like, or the appellants must have to provide sufficient evidence to show that, you know, to prove their case. But they didn't in this case.
Well, if you look at the judgment from the Court of Appeal, it's got that the judgment was not entirely based on the 2022 Electoral Act, the new act assented to by President Muhammadu Buhari.
Yeah,
that was why 2022. That was why they were able to overturn the verdict of the tribunal. And I want to tilt towards that in the case of this Supreme Court as well. Now that the Supreme Court may have probably also not considered the 2022 Electoral Act. Because if they had done that, we would have known that there was no way Adeleke's election would have been affirmed. Because 774 local governments is huge enough.
Polling units.
Polling units, PUs, they are huge enough to nullify that election. Because that was exactly what the Electoral Act says.
But has the APC proved its case? That's the contention. It didn't
that again has to do with time.
Evidence.
That again has to do with time. Like, you know, I mentioned the issue of time now, because between appeal and Supreme Court, the time, I think, is about just 2 weeks, a maximum of 3 weeks.
Even the procedure was faulted, because what the Supreme Court is saying is that the APC is relying on the third-party evidence, if you like, getting evidences from the server and so on.
If you remember what I said at the start of this program, I said, I hope lessons are learned. Not necessarily on the election, but even from the Supreme Court judgments. So all of these efforts, all of these flaws that they are bringing out from the, from the proceedings, I think the party can go back to the drawing board and re-strategize against the next election. So lessons must have been learned.
Yeah, and the fact that there are also existing cases at the various election petition tribunals.
Exactly.
Some of them have similar
scenario. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Let's come back to the actors now. Just like you said, you talked about your party, the APC, and what cost it, the position and what have you. But for the incumbent governor, Adeleke, how do you think he should handle this victory now that he's being substantially cleared? Now the coast is cleared for him. How do you think he should accommodate, if you like, or bring the other parties together to move the state forward?
Well, for me, I think in politics, everything should not be by winner takes all. We must all be magnanimous in victory. When you are the winner, the opposing party or the other party, try and see how you can have a government of unity. Because it is in the interest of the people. You are there to serve the people. The people that you defeated were also there to serve the people. So if there are areas you guys can, the two of you can have a compromise on delivering democratic governance to the people, then why not come together and work hand in hand? There's nothing that stops Adeleke from saying, okay, you were in the last government, you did this, and you are a very good person, come and work with us.
Based on merit.
Based on merit.
People should be accommodated.
People should be accommodated.
Yeah. And then for him, there's no excuse anymore. He has to deliver.
Of course.
Now that the cost is clear.
The funniest thing is that 2027 is already here.
That's right.
So if he tries to mess up the whole governance, The same way Ojetola was shown the exit door, it will be shown the exit door as well.
So should this serve as
a lesson?
Yeah.
As a clarion call to him that I need to deliver. Yes. Otherwise, what happened to my predecessor will happen to me.
That's right. Okay, the ultimate winner perhaps is the OSUN people.
Exactly.
The mandate has been upheld, restored and upheld.
The opinion of the people.
Right. Okay. So let's leave this matter to rest for now. Let's look at other issues.
We always look back to to discuss it. Anyway,
that's right. That's
a very long time to come.
Yeah, the APC, is at it again. Some will say, just like you had it, the build-up to 2015. So much intrigues within the party, almost tore the party apart. Yeah. But finally, it was able to pick the gauntlets, and then it got the victory. Yeah. Now, there are contending forces along this National Assembly leadership line. Yeah. Some are not happy with the decision of the party, the NWC, so to speak, endorsing certain number of people. They felt that it shouldn't have been handpicked also. What do you think about what happened? Do you think the party did the right thing, or what ought to have been done?
Well, it is often said that all is fair in war, including political war. And like I always tell people, I like to quote our president-elect, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Politics is not served a la carte. If you must reap from politics, you must have contributed substantially. Underline the word substantially in that politics before you can reap. I'm from the Southwest. But I can tell you that what I read yesterday from the party was below the bar. It wasn't expected. And that is the feeling of majority of the party members.
Was it not expected? The fact that there were meetings actually before now.
Yeah.
On Friday, the last Friday, there was a meeting.
Yeah, sure.
With the president-elect.
Yes.
And then before then, there were also consultations.
I agree with you.
Okay.
When I said it wasn't expected, it is not done anywhere in the world. That even if you have a candidate in the legislative arm of the government, you don't put their name. If you look at that memo released by Felix Morka yesterday, that was an aberration.
Okay.
So it means it's a premeditated action. By saying the party has zoned the Senate presidency to the South-South and so person, Akpabio. It is not done anywhere in the world. Okay. We copied our democracy from America.
So it ought to have been left open.
Even if you are going to zone it, it should have been left open.
For other contenders.
So why would you go and put somebody's name there?
But you're talking about consensus. You want to build a consensus so that there won't be agreement.
Consensus is a function of consultation. If you look at the letter released by Morka yesterday, he mentioned there that after they called in the past tense, called for further consultation and involvement of other stakeholders. And I want to ask, is it possible for the APC, the ruling party, to have meetings on the 10th National Assembly without the media knowing? Who are the... some
of these meetings are closed though.
There is no way, even if it is held behind closed door, you'll have seen it on the pages of the newspaper. That, okay, media houses were not allowed, but there were meetings.
Meeting was taken.
So who are the stakeholders that the party, the NWC met with? Did they even meet the various aspirants to the 10th Assembly? Did they meet them? So
now they're meeting themselves, so to speak. So, yesterday there was a group,
Betara, yesterday was at a Transcorp meeting. And declaring WASI will declare on Friday. So you see a lot of, like I mentioned before, and I said you're going to see a lot of fireworks in the days ahead. But honestly, for me, I think my party did not do well enough on the issue of the 10th Assembly.
In what way now? Is consultation or the choices?
The choices on the zoning is what I have issue with.
Okay.
My brother, I'm going to give you some statistics here. While we are discussing the issue of OSUN, I mentioned the issue that 2027 is here. And every government every government wants to consolidate itself in power. If you look at the outcome of 2023 election, I will give you statistics. The Northeast gave APC 10.6%. The Northwest gave APC 30.1%. The North Central gave APC 20%. The Southwest, where Ashwaju came from, gave APC 28.8%. The Southeast gave APC 1.45%. And the South-South gave APC 9.1%. Now, if you look at the total vote Ashwaju scored in Northwest alone, Ashwaju scored 2,652,542 or thereabouts. Now, take just 2 million from that 2.6 million and put it on Atiku's vote. Are we going to be talking about Ashwaju presidency by now? Of course not. So for us, after God, it was the Northwest that gave Ashwaju the needed victory. If the North...
So it needs to be compensated?
I'm coming there. If the North could jettison their two prominent sons, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar and Engineer Robi Musa Kwankwaso, and vote for a man from the Southwest in the name of Ashwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, haba.
Well, isn't that what the party is trying to do now? By making... by choosing, if you like, Senator Barau Jibril, from Kano to be the Deputy Senate President.
If the party is doing that, the party should have allowed the senators-elect to do that among themselves. So what if in the world everybody has bias and they have their interest? That interest shouldn't have been shown publicly, even if the president has somebody in mind. It shouldn't be shown publicly that, oh, this is my person, and you are putting the name there.
You're talking about political considerations. You also know what Kano stands for, or where Kano stands in terms of the voting strength in Nigeria's electoral calculation.
Yeah.
And perhaps he's also looking at the need to hold Kano tight.
That is where I'm going. Now, 2077 is here. APC lost Kano. APC is almost losing Kaduna now, except for the governor. So you can conveniently say Kaduna is 50% out already. APC lost Plateau already. APC, Nasarawa is shaky. Nasarawa is, as of this moment, is shaky. So now, what becomes of us? We have NNPP in Kano now. And if you have studied Engineer Robi Musa very well, it is somebody that is loved in Kano. And he would love to consolidate that power, probably to come back for presidency in 2027, or probably form a very serious alliance against the party.
What should have been formed earlier? That would have changed even the political
the whole
equation.
thing. Yeah. So they can now see reason to come back against the party in 2027. So if that is the case, that means my party, the APC, is threatened in the Northwest already. Because Kaduna is almost gone. I know the largest with the largest vote is gone already.
So you think, given the Northwest, the Deputy Senate President would not impact?
It will not impact so much, because you also have to look at the personality of the person involved, the acceptability of the person involved. You understand what I'm saying now? Yeah, Senator Jibril Barau, fantastic, nice person. But can he pull the crowd needed?
Who could have been better? Who could have been a better?
Well, that should have been left for the Northwest to decide.
Looking at the contenders.
Exactly.
Who is the better choice?
That should have been left for the Northwest to decide. We have senators from that region. We have Senator Yari coming on board. We have Senator Wawako. We have Senator Barau, and a number of them like that. So that should have been left for them to decide, not the party choosing. As a matter of fact, in our constitution, the duties of everybody, of each arm of government, is entrenched there. Yeah. Chapter 5 speaks about the legislature. Yeah. Chapter 6 speaks about the executive, while Chapter 7 speaks about the judiciary. So the executive should have left the legislative arm of government to decide who leads them.
But wouldn't that be suicidal? Looking at what happened, to the present administration. That's what President Muhammadu Buhari did, and that was in 2015, and he got those that he didn't bargain, and they gave him all the sleepless night.
See, what happened in 2015 was a subterfuge from the opposition. Like I said earlier, it is not bad for you to show interest that who leads the Senate or who leads the House of Representatives, but you don't rub it on people's face. You don't come and tell, because these guys are independent of you. So you don't come and rub it on their face that this is the person I want to work with as Senate President, or this is the person I want to work with as Speaker. You try to persuade, to consult, to lobby.
Perhaps maybe the persuasion was not done, the way you expected. But this is the same scenario that played out in 2019. President Muhammadu Buhari prepared choice was actually Ahmed Lawan. And of course, and Bajabi Amila. Those were the party's choices. And it was done seamlessly. Yeah. So what was the difference now?
It was done seamlessly, but also with consultation and serious campaign. You will recall that in 2019, the now NNPP House of Rep from Kano, Honorable Jibril, Jibril was in the forefront leading the campaign for President Bajabi Amila. So as much as President Muhammadu Buhari tried to let people know that this is our candidate, they didn't stop at that level. There was serious we were always at the transcapital engagement every now and then, but that has not happened now. So the party has thrown into our face, okay, this is the person we want. These are the people we want.
Okay, this is perhaps a serious misnomer.
It is.
Yeah, but then we'll also be looking at the implication of all of this. But I think it's about time we take a break. In case you're just joining us, the program is Daily Politics, and we're looking at issues in the polity. With particular interest to the search for leadership of the 10th National Assembly, especially within the ruling All Progressives Congress, the APC. And I've been interfacing with Omobolan Babawale, who is a party chieftain and, of course, also a political affairs analyst. We'll take a break. When we return, we'll continue with the conversation. Stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with us. It's still Daily Politics. We're back to continue from where we stopped. Before the break, you're actually talking about what this misnomer or miscalculation within the APC could cost. And we're beginning to see manifestations of this, groupings emerging. Now, some of them are already shopping for their own candidates.
Preferred candidates, yeah.
Yes. So, and then that is aside of what the party gave them. We've also had Senator Dume saying that the choice of Papabio, for instance, is not ultimate. Anointed. You're talking. It's not an anointment. It's just a choice of preference. So, what do you make up with this postulation?
Well, with respect to Senator Ali Dume, is a very ranking member of the Senate. And very respected, and I also respect him a lot. I think what he's trying is what I saw from that was just safe landing. I mean, face-saving attempt. Major, right. Because days ago we saw him where he addressed the media and said this is the choice of the party and the choice of the president-elect. So now saying it's not necessarily an anointment but a preferred choice. It's just telling us that for them, whatever the case may be, they will still be allowed to go into contest and allow other people to, come into the fray and contest.
But how would that play out if a party has taken a decision and now is rescinding and then allowing? Why not allow open contest in the first place?
So I was asking you a question. I said, okay, the party said it consulted with whom? If
you are in the party, you should be able to
answer. That's the question. If the candidates or the aspirant now, both at the Senate, the Red Chamber and the Grey Chamber, have been consulted very well. I'm too sure by the time that list came out yesterday, nobody will have raised any eyebrow because they must have been told, okay, this is the way we want to go. And if there are grumbles then, they would have aired their opinion, and probably the president-elect, if he was part of the meeting, would have said, okay, let us do this so that everybody will win at the end of the day. But with what you have seen since from yesterday till this moment, you will have known that definitely the so-called constitution that the party did may not be thorough. I won't say they didn't consult, but that consultation may not be thorough. But because if it was thorough, Betara wouldn't have gone ahead to declare himself open yesterday. Wase would not have decided to.
In such a crowd, what do you think?
The crowd was huge.
A number of contenders and even governors.
In fact, God will help APC in the coming days. That place, people did not leave that place until 1 a.m. this morning. And don't be surprised, you will see Betara when Wase declares on Friday. Because these guys have decided to come up together, to team up together and run against the party.
Jaji was also there.
Jaji, Betara, Wase, this other man, I've forgotten this man's name. So all of them, that felt betrayed by, so to speak, the leadership of the 9th Assembly. They have teamed up against the party.
But why is it that all fingers are pointed at Gbajabiamila? What role do you think he has made? Why is it so much interested, not interested in those key other contenders, including his deputy, talking about the deputy speaker of the House, who is also a contender?
Politics is a game of interest. But Gbajabiamila may have his reasons, which I may not be able to talk about here. But you will agree with me that, well, Obasanjo was there. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar also showed interest. But was he allowed to, did he support him? No. So I don't know the reason.
It's gradually becoming a norm now. People who are on the saddle doesn't want their deputies or their subordinates to succeed them.
Well, maybe from experience, maybe they felt the camaraderie may not be sustained afterwards. We saw what happened in Kano. Remember, Governor Ganduje was deputy to Alhaji
Kano
Kwankwaso.
was an example.
Yes.
I think there is one other state again. Yeah. So it does happen, but it's not that prevalent.
It's not prevalent. So,
yes.
Like I said, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila may have various reasons for not probably throwing his weight behind any.
Yeah.
And you never even can tell. You never even can tell. Probably, maybe it's just trying to look at, okay, let them continue with the game. We see a number of this. Eventually, I will come up.
But what would this cost the party and the president-elect? Perhaps if they would have to be forced, to change the direction or to change this decision they've taken. Wouldn't that also rub on their credibility and their ability to stand on their foot?
It is better to correct the mistake ab initio than to allow it fester, because 2027 is there. And if we are not careful, the catastrophe that was abated in 2023 will come in 2027. So the mistakes that have been made, it can be corrected now, before it festers further. So 2027 is not guaranteed. See, let me tell you, Nigeria has shown that voting for you is not about performance. I will give you an instance.
Okay.
In the history of Nigeria, no president, civilian or otherwise, has ever done what President Muhammadu Buhari did for the Southeastern people. No president.
Despite the criticism and all of that.
Despite the criticism, the hate speech and what have you, the man did very well in the Southeast.
Perhaps in every ramification, including appointments.
Exactly, he did. For
the first time, we have 7 ministers
from the Southeast.
In spite of the minute number you talk about.
So, what would we have expected them to do during the 2023 poll? To give, at least if you cannot agree, your son was also contesting. If you cannot give APC the same percentage you gave APC in 2023, in 2019, you should have at least added 2%. Buhari got 5% in 2019, probably 3% in 2015. And this time around, Ashwadu got 1.45%. That was ridiculous.
Almost zero.
Almost zero.
But even though there are also reasons behind
it. So that is to tell you that Nigeria is not saying, they are not looking at, you have done something for us. They will look at the personality involved. So if care is not taken, the APC must be very careful not to play into the hands of the opposition by correcting this mistake now.
Yeah.
Because Kano is very key to us.
That's right. Okay. Now looking at the fragmentations, within the party, and the fact that, especially at the Green Chamber, we have the greater majority. That is, the oppositions coming together. Yeah. They have numbers. In fact, they're almost at par with the APC when it comes to numbers. Yes, and now with these grievances within the party, a possibility of pulling people from the APC to the side of the opposition and then deciding on their own who lead is very, eminent. Yeah, exactly. So how do you think the party can manage this in the impending days? That is why I said this anomaly should be corrected. Because you don't blame them if they go and cut opposition. They will tell you during the election, your party also did it. After all, we saw Governor Sakere of Ondo, Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State, and the former governor of Ekiti, Yemi visit Wike. Did they go there for handshake or for jamboree? So they will tell you. What are you alleging now? No, it's not an allegation. Yeah. It is just, okay, how do we work together? Okay. Do you understand what I'm saying now? So these guys can go and cut the large number of the opposition in the house and say, okay, don't worry, we'll give you this, we'll give you this. It's just a give and take. Yeah. And by the time you know it. Already a committee was set up by the opposition also. 11-man committee. 11-man committee. Yeah, I'm aware of a possible candidate. And perhaps, who knows, there has been a lot of consultations, meetings, behind closed doors and all of that. So it is very dicey for the APC. And very. If it didn't trade carefully, perhaps it may lose this. Of course, yes. And for the president-elect, yes, he needs, to have the leadership on his own side. Exactly. To be able to deliver. But one thing I want you to know is that, politics is all about interest. Politics is all about interest. When Ashwaju was coming out, against all odds, he picked Senator Kashim Shettima. Within uproar, the Rulabalu, he stood his ground. His eyes were kept on the ball. That's right. He didn't mind. Panic, yeah. He didn't panic. So he felt if he wins, he wins. If he loses, he loses. Yeah. At the end of the day, to him, it was a key strategy. It was a key strategy. Yes. So because of his interest. So these other guys who are also aspiring at the National Assembly, they also have personal interest. Because at the end of the day, APC is just like a party. It's just like a vehicle that conveys individual aspirants to their destination. So even though it shouldn't be so. Just like in Nigeria. It's a service to humanity. Yes. So they see it as a vehicle that takes them to the destination. So in that case, if the president could do this and it could work for him, they might think, okay, why can't you also adopt the same thing? So that is why it's a very delicate issue that the party should go back to the drawing board and re-strategize otherwise. Yeah, the guest we had yesterday also talked about the fact that it is a contravention even of the party's guidelines, laws and guidelines, perhaps, for a national working committee to ratify, or rather to take a decision on who becomes the leader of the National Assembly without recourse to the NEC, which is the larger. That was the question I asked you. When they said they consulted, I said, whom did they consult? Because the National Working Committee is just the chairman and the executive. But the larger member of NEC, I didn't see anywhere where there was a missing head, either once or twice, on this issue of the race to the National Assembly. So how did they come about the names? So a lot of issues that this thing has thrown up, especially by mentioning a particular name. Yeah. So already you are giving the belief that whether you like it or not, this is the person I want to work with. But then there are subjects that I know because let me say something here today. But okay, make that point. Among Nigerians, I was the first Nigerian to go on national TV, continental TV, to say we want Aswaji to come on board in 2021. So for people to know that I'm not against Aswaju, I've been pro Aswaju since 1999. But what I'm thinking is, I'm thinking of for our party, that 2027, we have an election to win. And if we must win election, the Northwest must be considered. That's it.
as number 3 in the country. Otherwise, that 2.5 million or 2.6 million votes may not come our way in 2027, and that will be too dangerous.
So if I understand your position, the Senate President should come from the Northwest.
Of course. And for me, Senator Dr. Abdulaziz Abubakar Yari should be considered.
Why should he be considered? This is someone who also has not been active, in the legislative activities of the House, especially the Senate in particular.
Okay.
So why do you think? And then, what are the yardsticks?
You need an experienced man, right? He was a 2-time House of Rep member before he became a governor. And don't forget that in 2007, when David Mark ran for Senate presidency, the former governor of Benue State, George Akume, ran against him as a first-timer in the Senate. Did Nigeria raise any eyebrow? He lost,
but
he ran.
But the leadership of the National Assembly has certain criteria that are required. One has to be
every
a mobilizer.
assembly.
One has to be one who is accepted by all.
Of course.
One has to be someone who can also inspire.
Of course.
In terms of leadership.
One thing that people don't know about
all of this quality.
One thing that people don't know about Senator Yari is that he's a unifier. When he was the chairman of Governors Forum, that was when he used his personal relationship with Buhari to release that Paris loan fund to the state then. People didn't know that.
But when you talk about credibility issues, because one of the issues accumulating against perhaps the choice of Opabio also have to do with integrity in terms of, there have been a number of issues, allegations of corruption hanging around and all of that. And Senator Yari has similar baggages, even bigger baggages, some will say. So why do you think, he has to, his choice would change this narrative that we're talking about?
The baggages have not been proven. Do you refer
Just like that of Opabio, actually. But then they wouldn't want anyone who has been tainted, whose past is tainted, especially along this corruption
who wouldn't want? You mean the members of the Senate?
Yes. The National Assembly members would have loved, to have someone who has credibility, whose past is not tainted, who when he talks he is inspired, and all of that.
I agree with you, and that will be shown in the choices they make. And the coming intent, and by the time the assembly is convoked, by the time they vote, they will tell you whether this person is our choice or not.
So in other words, you're foreseeing the possibility of them rebelling against the party.
It's not rebellion. Honestly, it's not rebellion. See, the legislative arm of the government is independent. They should be allowed to choose their presiding officers by their own. If the president-elect has an interest, fine. Guys,
why wouldn't he have an interest when he is going to work with the same people?
I was going to say something the other time. I said, see, by the time this whole thing is done and dusted, everybody will fall in line. See, the truth is that everybody loves Asiwaju. So even I can tell you today, even if opposition is the one that takes over the National Assembly,
he will be able to
work with Asiwaju through. But everybody loves Asiwaju.
Yes,
so that aura
is one who
is there.
Perhaps, transcend party lines.
That is why I called him Nigeria's inarguably greatest political generalissimo. So he has a way of,
So either way,
he's going to have a smooth this thing. So it's just that, individual interests, of course, they have to put in the front burner. Okay, you can't do this and ask me not to do it. That is what is happening.
So what role do you think the party leadership is also playing here? Because it appears that the national chairman of the party is also losing grasp, of issues around this selection or these consultations and all of that. Is it that he's also overwhelmed by certain interest?
Well, everybody comes with their own...
because as a former senator,
yes,
one who has been in the Senate, a former governor, he knows all of these intrigues.
Of course.
And knew the implications of them.
Yeah.
I thought, as a party leader, he should stand his speech and ensure that, whatever is needed is done correctly, so that the party would not be at the receiving end.
Everybody comes with their leadership style. To Baba Abdullahi Adamu, he may feel that this is the best way he thinks he can handle the party. He may think this is the best way. if you are given the leadership of the party, the way you run it will be different from the way I will run it. Would be different from the way our brother there will run it. So he may feel that this is the best way. Think he can. It's not left for party members to judge him by his actions and inactions. Is this man really in charge of the party? It is for us to know. It is by actions and inactions that we will know that whether he's in charge of the party or not. But what I am saying, and I'm emphasizing here, is that the party leadership and the president-elect should please, I'm begging them, this is the national TV, I'm begging them that they should please not do anything that will make us lose 2027. It is very important. You can't give somebody that gave you 30% of your vote, 1/3 of your vote. You can't throw them away and go and pick somebody with lesser value. At the end of the day, it will come back to haunt us. Honestly, it's the truth. Besides, we may not like it.
So, but how do you manage perhaps the diversity? And of course, looking at those two other regions now, there's already a cry of marginalization. You know, they've been aged out. Southeast in particular,
Edge out how?
But you know, in terms of
if you don't want to be edged out, if you want to be edged in, then you make I told you earlier. I said politics is not served a la carte. You have to contribute substantially. If you want to be edged in, let me use the word, then you should not have contributed 1.45% in the first place. Then again, who is talking about marginalization? Who is marginalizing who? Are we not in this country when somebody was there as president, and two particular reasons why dominated everywhere? I don't want to mention names, but you and I know. So did other geopolitical zone, did they cry out?
Do we continue in that trajectory? We have
I'm not saying that
is at the brink, so to speak, in terms of national unity and cohesion.
Exactly.
So what do we do?
Exactly. The offices at the National Assembly, there are many. If, for instance, which I'm advocating for that, the Senate President goes to the Northwest, let the DSP go to the South-South. If the North Central is not even considered in the scheme of things, which is bad, and they contribute 20%.
And that's why they're also pushing for the speakership.
Exactly. So
very strongly.
Now, if the Northwest can, the North Central rather, the North Central can get a speakership, then the Southeast should produce the deputy speaker. And just like that, just so that everybody can be represented. Who says that it is that Senate President that will give you what you need? Are we saying Senator Adeleke is not pulling them weight? He's not doing something over in the Southern region? Is that what you are saying as a DSP? So why the fixation on that SP, on the Senate President and the speakership?
But you know, when it comes to hierarchy, people are looking at number 1, number 2, number 3.
Then if you are looking at number 1, number 2, number 3, then you should have contributed to qualify for that position. It's not by blackmailing or by ranting or by saying it must be us. It is by persuasion, us trading.
So let's get your last line now. How do you think all of this will be resolved? You talked about the fact that it is better to JoJo than to war.
Exactly.
How do we JoJo here and come out of this quagmire?
Well, I just want to appeal to the various protagonists that if there's no APC, there won't be them at National Assembly. They should consider the interest of the party, so that we don't lose out in 2027. Everybody must be ready to have a compromise. They must be able to shift ground. When there is a hand of fellowship from the president-elect, we must all be ready to embrace it, so that we can have a formidable party against the next election. Because I know by 2027, a stronger position is coming.
Right.
And if you go into 2027 with this way we are, then APC is as good as Ghana.
Thank you very much, Omobolahan Babawale, an APC chieftain, for that wonderful insight. Thank you very much for your perspective on this leadership conundrum of the National Assembly, as it is. And viewers, this is where we come to the end of the discussions today. Do join us tomorrow, where we'll be back with another interesting topic and personalities. You can also do well by joining us on our social media platforms showing on your screen. Thank you very much. I'm Shafiu Suleiman. Thank you for staying with us once again.